This poor rat snake is in a pretty sticky situation, and quite unfortunately, this is the third case I've seen this year. So I decided it was time to finally make a video about how to unstick a snake from a glue trap, duct tape, or some other sticky surface. I'm Ethan, and you're watching Radiant Reptilia. Bottoms up. I thought I could do it. I can do a rat, but I can't do oil. I get called in quite often to help people with their snake and reptile-related issues. I got called in about a week ago to remove a copperhead from someone's shed. And then I've gotten called in multiple times to help remove snakes stuck in pretty unfortunate situations. And that's how I ended up getting connected with this little fellow. Even though they called me as soon as they discovered the snake, we don't really know how long this poor snake was stuck. This was part of a Halloween decoration, I guess. They had some sort of black tarp across their lawn to make it all dark and spooky or something, and it was anchored on the edges with Gorilla Tape, which is what this is. And this poor snake evidently slithered underneath it and got stuck. The weather here has been pretty darn bad recently, getting into the 40s, 30s, and even 20s at night. So we really haven't been seeing snakes out very much at all. So there's actually a plausible chance that this guy slithered underneath several weeks ago. I can't imagine he was out in the super cold weather. So he could have been stuck there for quite some time. And probably the nastiest part about him is his poor cloacal area. It's crusted with urates and waste products. It just looks really, really nasty. And that tells me that he's been here long enough to pass waste, so he must have been here probably at least a week, which is quite unfortunate, and chances are it was probably even more. However, he is still alive. I can see him squirm once in a while. I see him breathe. And he seems surprisingly strong for his condition. It's really hard to tell if he's like a good weight or if he's lost a ton of weight or not, because he's literally pressed up against it and the skin is pulled really tight. So it's hard to tell if he's underweight or if that's just his skin being yanked, or if it's a combination of the two. We'll find out when we get him off. But he's in a pretty nasty situation, and he definitely would have died if he wasn't able to be unstuck like we're hopefully going to be able to do today. As I said, this is the third case I had this year. The most recent case was a couple of months ago. I was with Connor and Blaise on one of our herping trips, and some dude saw that we were out looking for snakes at night, and he drove off and then came back in his pickup truck, and in the back of his pickup truck, he had a glue trap that had been there for like 3 weeks or something, with these two poor garter snakes stuck to it. I took home one of the garter snakes, and Connor took home one of the garter snakes. So this guy, I think, is definitely going to make it. He's very strong and very active. But Connor's going to take him home and keep an eye on him for a little bit. Anyways, this one's a little bit questionable. This one's actually a lot weaker. My guess is this one was probably on there for a lot longer. The guy said he brought in the trap today, but who knows how long it was sitting out there. So this guy could have been out there for potentially a week or so, or even longer, really. So this guy's definitely a little bit weaker. I'm going to be taking this guy home and giving him special attention and care personally, and seeing if we can't work him back up to health. And unfortunately, the one that I took home didn't actually make it. It was considerably weaker than the one that Connor took home, so there's a very good chance that it was on there for a lot longer. It was also a lot smaller, so probably a little bit more delicate. As far as I'm aware, the one that Connor took home to rehab is still doing great, but it can easily kill snakes, and that was just one of the examples of how that happened. And it would have happened to this guy if he wasn't discovered, or if he was discovered too much later than this. So, if you're not in my area and you can't get a hold of me to help you with your poor stuck snakes, I will go ahead and walk you through the process I do to unstick snakes from things like glue traps and duct tape. So the very first thing you're going to need is oil. I strongly recommend vegetable oil. Oils often break down many adhesives. I think even sometimes in crime shows you'll see people use something like peanut butter to break down an adhesive, and that's because the peanut butter often has lots of oils in it. So that's the same concept as what we're doing here, except I'd imagine using actual oil is much more effective than peanut butter. Next thing to have on hand is just a rag. You're going to be wiping and scrubbing and just doing a lot of work, so it's always good to have a rag or two with you. And thirdly, we just have a tray in order for us to work in here. So this is just where our poor lad is going to be set as we work on getting him free. The first thing I do is I'm just going to start drizzling this oil all over the snake's body. If you're using a vegetable-based oil, obviously it should be non-toxic for your snake, but I wouldn't go pumping it down your snake's throat, right? You don't want it to drink a ton of this. So you can just start with a light drizzle. I'm just making sure that oil is now in contact with the entire length of the snake's body, especially those parts of the snake that are up against the glue, because I want to be breaking down the glue in between the snake's skin and the base of the duct tape. And I'm just going to let that soak for a little bit. I'm really just going to let the oil start dissolving down some of the adhesive. Really, I don't want to be yanking it. I don't want to risk ripping skin. That would be really, really easy to do in this situation, or worse, breaking a bone. So I need to be really, really careful, and I really want the oil to do the heavy lifting and not my hands or brute force or anything like that. After letting it sit for maybe 45 seconds or so, I'm going to go ahead and reach down and just feel if I feel it loosening up at all. Not putting any real force yet, just kind of very gently, just kind of massaging it, just trying to get it moving a little bit in there, making sure that the oil is not just sitting there, but is, you know, hopefully working on the edges of the skin a little bit. I can already feel that tail's getting a little bit looser. This Gorilla Tape is really, really dry. Like, none of it is sticky anymore. Unlike a sticky trap, which is meant to stay sticky for like a long period of time, this is actually meant to harden after a little bit of time, so I'm probably going to be here a little bit longer than you would be with like a sticky trap. Yep, tail's starting to come up a little bit. Again, if I'm having to pinch part of his body and give any measure of force when I'm pulling up to actually get it to come up, then I'm doing it wrong. By doing that, I'm risking ripping his skin. Really, I just want to be massaging it, just barely nudging it a little bit. Just letting the oil really, really do the work of breaking down that adhesive. I think he might be able to feel that he's starting to loosen because he's starting to really wiggle in there a lot. He's probably starting to feel that he's starting to come up, or he's just being made uncomfortable by the oil. Either one, it's definitely starting to help. He's starting to pop up in a couple different spots now. There we go. That thing was glued to him, and it's glued to a piece of poop that he let out who knows how long ago. Nasty. By the way, I don't think I even mentioned what we're looking at here. This is just an eastern rat snake, Pantherophis alleghaniensis. Typically around this area, they come in these jet black variants, but often when they're really young, they're actually much more grayish like this. They kind of look like some sort of corn snake morph or something. So it's kind of cool to see one that's not entirely black. I don't usually find them quite this small. So that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, there we go. Big loop just popped off. There are a few unfortunate scales being left stuck to the glue, but the good thing is that none of the skin is ripping, so if you see a little bit of that, don't be freaking out. As long as the skin isn't ripping, then that's not going to be the end of the world. Scales will grow back or be replaced with very minimal scarring. It's when the skin rips that you're going to have a much bigger issue on your hands. If you do need to add more oil, feel free to do so at any time. Again, if you're just using the vegetable oil, it's not going to be toxic. There's a whole loop of his body that's kind of loose here right now. And just kind of being able to see a little bit more, he definitely looks like a very thin, pathetic little rat snake. So there's a very good chance he's been stuck on here for a good little while, enough time to lose some weight, which is quite sad. And I'm so glad that I found him before he died. Really, I'm starting to make some progress now. Again, I'm not yanking, I'm just pulling up with the slightest of little nudge, just to feel if it's starting to loosen. And if it's not, I'm not going to yank it, I'm not going to force it. It's like an electronic, if you force it, you're going to break it. I'm starting to get a little bit thin on the oil here. I'm just going to add just a little bit more. Man, I feel so bad for the snake. I couldn't stand even a tiny little bit of that corn oil, and this guy's drenched in it.
Oh. You're a fool. Oh, it's bad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, hair's in the oil. That was awesome. Yep, see that whole area just loosened up. Now I got off a good 1/3 of his body there. That's great. Now I'm going to let it work on the next section a little bit, now that more of it is exposed. This guy is really, really thin. He's probably going to be with me for quite a while, judging by how thin and skinny he's looking. Oh, yay! There goes his head. Oh, that must feel so good to him, to have his head free. I'm going to go ahead and set the rag there for him to set his poor face on, to kind of rest there so he's not sitting in that oil. I want to make sure that it's not clogging up his respiratory tract or any of his breathing orifices, because I still want him to be able to be breathing and ventilating just fine. So hopefully that'll help him dry out a little bit while we work on the rest of his body. How'd you end up in this situation, huh? Did Obi-Wan get the high ground? I feel like I'm Palpatine, working on my new apprentice. Almost there. There's maybe an inch of you that's still attached. Oh. I want some more? Look at this. It's attached by just a tiny little bit now. And we're free. This guy's about to come off. And he's free! Yes! And the third one is free. Are you happy to be free? Now the very next thing we gotta do is just get him out of this oil and get him all cleaned off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take him over to the nearest sink and rinse him off with water that's not too warm or not too cold. Don't be afraid to grab his face a little bit and manhandle it a little bit just to make sure that you're washing all the oil off of his nose and his mouth area. So there you have it. That is how to remove your snake from a sticky adhesive substance like a glue trap or other adhesive. Now after the snake is removed, you're really going to want to evaluate the health of the animal that you're working with. In this case, this guy is severely underweight, severely undernourished. I do have faith he's going to pull through because of how strong he's been throughout this whole thing. Now I understand that some of the people watching this video may not be reptile keepers or reptile enthusiasts. You just happen to be good-natured enough to try to help your snake out, and you did a quick Google search and maybe stumbled across this video. And if that's you, then A, thank you so much. I appreciate it. The reptile community as a whole appreciates it, and the snake that you rescued definitely appreciates it. And B, I understand that you might not be able to tell if your snake is in good condition or bad condition. You might not be able to assess the general health of the snake. And if it is in a bad condition, you might not really know what your next steps are as far as rehabbing it. If that is the case, please do not hesitate to shoot me an email, contact@radiantreptilia.com, or a text at 805-235-7277. I'd love to help out however I can. So any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm Ethan, we've been learning how to unstick stuck snakes, and you've been watching Radiant Reptilia.
Water.
Okay, let's see. Nope, he's gonna lose a tail. There it goes.
Oh.
I thought that might happen.
First time I've ever actually
Wait,
seen
don't put
that.
it in the bucket yet. Okay.
I'll eat that tail for $1.
Don't say that.
Would you stop with it?
Come on, Ethan.
$2, you mean?
Actually, I'll give you $1 to eat that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but you know.
Okay. Ready?
We need a better angle of this. Give me the camera.
Okay, no, here, I'll do that after I finish this up.
Nope, you're doing it right now. Here we go.
Oh, covered in vegetables. Oh no! No!
Swallowed whole.
No!
You guys,
No!
you got some serious issues. For real.
You owe me $1.
I do.
How's that for an issue?
Grab the camera so I can give this man $1.
I got it.